Julius Randle's trade value may have just been revealed by Knicks insider Fred Katz, who also broke down if Leon Rose and the New York Knicks have decided to either extend or trade Julius, and we are going to break it all down. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. But before we get into that, are you trying to kick a bad habit to the curb? Because if so, then you have to check out Fume. Have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits, led by the sponsor of today's video, Fume. Fume has a lot of delicious flavors to choose from crisp mint to cinnamon hearts. They have a flavor just for you. And with flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation through a passive diffusion system that utilizes no electronics, no vapor, and no combustion. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be their next success story. So guys, for a limited time only, use our code DIGEST to get a free topper. It's the perfect accessory to your Fume device. Slip it onto the mouthpiece for a softer, warmer feel. It's chewable for those who love to fidget, and it's also reusable. So guys, head to tryfume.com. That is tryfum.com. And use code DIGEST or scan this QR code right here to get your free Fume topper when you order your Journey Pack today. So once again, that is tryfum.com. Use code DIGEST, free topper. It's a can't miss situation. But let's get into the video. Since getting traded to the New York Knicks, Julius Randle has been in trade conversations essentially since he was eligible to get traded on December 15th of 2019 with how bad the Knicks were. Obviously, he was supposed to get moved, and then he broke out, and then he fell apart. He was supposed to get moved, and then they signed Brunson, and it became evidently clear that if Julius Randle has a good point guard to help him, he is an all-star level player. And now, once again, his name is in trade conversations for a different reason than ever before. And that's simple. He's due for a contract extension. The New York Knicks have a lot of interesting contracts going. I mean, you got Brunson on a pretty cheap deal. You have Mikal Bridges saying he wants to take a pay cut like Brunson. You have DiVincenzo and Josh Hart due in 2026, along with Mitchell Robinson. You have OG Anunoby making more money than Jeff Bezos. It's a weird situation that the Knicks are in right now because paying Julius Randle could affect their salary in a bad way where they'd be stuck near the second apron if not in it. And they want to avoid the second apron at all costs as it limits you from basically making any meaningful trades or signing anyone meaningful. You lose your mid-level exceptions, so you can't go over the salary cap at all. Despite the fact that there are exceptions for a reason, it's essentially a rule that prevents super teams. And it's good for basketball, but it could be bad for the Knicks. And the Knicks clearly moving into this Nova Knicks era, it makes you wonder if Julius Randle's more expendable than being let on. Now, Fred Katz broke this down and kind of gave the answer that I love to hear, which is the fact that Katz mentioned that he doesn't believe there is a team in the NBA that would value the three-time All-Star Julius Randle more than the Knicks. He texted the question to someone who works in a rival front office. I'm going to say probably the Wizards, where Fred Katz used to work for. And the answer they received was neutral at best. Now, that is aimed not just for the specific team, which, again, I am going to guess is the Wizards or the Nets, because that's the teams that Katz probably knows the best outside of the Knicks. And I think that means for every single NBA team. Now, here's the thing. Julius Randle's a phenomenal player. He's an all-star. He's an all-NBA player. Don't get me wrong. He doesn't fit everywhere. He fits on the Knicks. This is the best team Randle could possibly fit on. It's the best team he's ever been on. It's the best fit for him. This is a grand slam of a team if you're Julius Randle. If I'm Julius, I'm so excited for the season because it's going to make his life so much more easier having this team around him for a full year than anything else he's ever played with in his entire life. Like, this is as good of a team for Julius Randle as he's ever been on. So, why would the Knicks trade him? The simple answer is money. How much does Julius want in his next extension? He already took kind of a pay cut the first time around because he didn't wait a year for a bigger extension. He instead signed one, and obviously now it's coming to an end. He's got one more year left in a player option. If he decides to opt out of that player option and sign an extension, the Knicks can make some money. Or he could opt into the player option and sign a 3-year extension, which would really help out the Knicks. he could still help the Knicks out regardless, but you really want him to opt into that option, which doesn't feel too likely if Randle has a great season and thinks he can get paid, which is understandable. Not everyone's going to do what Brunson did, but also wouldn't be too shocking if Randle did. Now, Katz continued by talking more about this and saying that Julius makes nearly $29 million this season and can become a free agent next summer if he wants to. The fear of having to pay him, especially when his skill set makes him such a specific fit, makes it difficult to find other suitors. He fits the Knicks, but he doesn't fit other contending teams. Like, let's think of a random team that needs a scorer. The one that pops into my head is the Miami Heat. They need a scorer. They're a good team. They're not great anymore, but they're a good team that does need a scorer and is still trying to contend for an NBA title. Julius is a scorer. It doesn't mean he fits with the Heat. He actually doesn't fit with the Heat whatsoever. But they're a team that needs a scorer. Another team that could use extra scoring, like when it comes from an isolation standpoint, would be the Pacers if they didn't have Pascal Siakam. Now, if Siakam wasn't there, the Pacers would fit Randle perfectly. But Siakam's there, so they fit Siakam perfectly instead because Randle and Siakam are very, very similar players. I guess the San Antonio Spurs are the only other team that I could think that's not actively trying to be terrible and could use a scorer where Randle would somewhat fit. And that's such a long shot. They're not trading assets for 29-year-old Julius Randle. I know they have Chris Paul's being all geriatric and stuff on that team, but that's for the progression of Victor Wembanyama more than it is of having Chris Paul for on-the-court stuff for himself and benefiting from your team, which he obviously does, but it's a lot for Wemby's development and to try to have Chris Paul kind of step into the coaching role that Greg Popovich is going to leave a hole in sooner rather than later, so they could hire Paul as the coach, someone who played with Wemby and Vassell and all them, and Keldon Johnson. So that's what's going to happen there. In case you guys wanted some Spurs talk, there you go. There's my bold prediction. Chris Paul's going to coach him in a few years, because Pops is obviously old. He's not going to coach for much longer. Though he's the GOAT. Now, this got off track, but we've talked about Julius Randle trades a lot. I understand that you guys don't love when we break this stuff down, but look, there's more news on this. This is the first time we've ever heard what Julius Randle's value potentially is. And all we're seeing is that Julius is probably not going to get traded. Because that's been the common denominator of most of these conversations. But especially when you look at the fact that the Knicks value him higher than anyone else, they're not going to move him for under market value just to move Julius Randle because they might have to give him a contract extension. That's a lot of money. That doesn't make sense. They wouldn't do that. It just doesn't add up. So I really think we're in a standpoint where it depends a lot on how Julius Randle plays and not a standpoint of standoff. Because if Julius plays well and wants a ton of money, the Knicks are going to have to figure something out. Now, if Julius doesn't play so well or gets injured again and it hurts the Knicks in the playoffs, or God forbid Julius Randle plays poorly in the playoffs, you then can pay him less. But you also fear, do you want to, or do you want to go to that 4-out system of Brunson, Dante, Mikal, and OG? Now, I'll say I think Randle's great. I don't fear the playoff stuff at all. He was injured and then exhausted on each of those 2 playoff runs. So it is what it is. I'm not concerned about that. What I am concerned about is how much he's going to ask for, and I think that could become a problem down the line. But we'll make sure to update you guys as that happens, as I fix my hair at the same time. Guys, make sure you like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. What do you guys think is going to happen? Though we're not exactly done yet, there is a little bit more to talk about because Fred Katz did mention there's no indication the Knicks are trying to trade Julius Randle, and more importantly, the Pelicans, who have been trying to trade Brandon Ingram, who's 3 years younger than Randle and viewed as more of an isolation scorer, given Randle's the better player and averages 4 more points per game and shoots from the field better, not 3-point, but Brandon Ingram only shoots 35.5% from 3. With what Randle does, Julius Randle is a better offensive player. Argue with whoever you want, but he is. Now, that's out of the way. Months into the offseason, the Pelicans have not been able to find any viable suitors for Brandon Ingram. The Pelicans are at a standstill, as Katz believes the Knicks would be if they chose to move on from Randle. So even if the Knicks try to trade Julius Randle, it seems like they might not be able to. So guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Like this video. I already said all that. Have a great day and go Knicks.